You'll never break off our engagement again, Cecily.
I don't think I could break it off now that I've actually met you. Besides, of course, it's a question of your name.
Yes, of course.
You must not laugh at me, darling, but it has always been a girlish dream of mine to love someone whose name was Ernest.
Algernon rises, Cecily also.
There is something in that name that seems to inspire absolute confidence. I pity any poor married woman whose husband is not called Ernest.
But, my dear child, do you mean to say you could not love me if I had some other name?
But what name?
Oh, any name you like. Algernon, for instance.
But I don't like Algernon.
Well, my own dear, sweet, loving little darling, I really can't see why you should object to the name of Algernon. It is not at all a bad name. In fact, it is rather an aristocratic name. Half of the chaps who get into the bankruptcy court are called Algernon. But seriously, Cecily,
Moving to her. Moving to her.
if my name was Algie, couldn't you love me?
Rising.
I'd respect you, Ernest. I might admire your character, but I feel I should not be able to give you my undivided attention.
Cecily,
Picking up hat.
your rector here is, I suppose, thoroughly experienced in the practice of all the rites and ceremonials of the church.
Oh, yes, Dr. Charles was a most learned man. He's never read a single book, so you can imagine how much he knows.
I must see him at once on a most important most important business.
Oh,
I shan't be away more than half an hour.
considering that we've been engaged since February the 14th, and that I only met you day for the first time, I think it's rather hard that you should leave me for so long a period as half an hour. Couldn't you make it 20 minutes?
I'll be back in no time.
Kisses her hand and rushes down the garden.
What an impetuous boy he is. I like his hair so much. I must enter his proposal in my diary.
Enter Merriman.
The Miss Fairfax has just called to see Mr. Worthing. On very important business, Miss Fairfax states.
Is Mr. Wedding in the library?
Mr. Worthing went over in the direction of the rectory some time ago.
Pray ask the lady to come out here. Mr. Wedding should be back soon. And you can bring the tea.
Yes, miss.
Merriman goes out.
Miss Fairfax. I suppose one of the many good elderly women who associate Uncle Jack in some of his philanthropic work in London. I don't quite like women who are interested in philanthropic work. I think it is so forward of them.
Enter Merriman.
Miss Fairfax.
Enter Gwendolyn, exit Merriman. Cecily advancing to meet her.
Pray let me introduce myself to you. My name is Cecily Cardew.
Cecily Cardew?
Moving to her and shaking hands.
What a very sweet name. Something tells me we're going to be great friends. I like you already more than I can say. My first impressions of people are never wrong.
Oh, how nice of you to like me so much after we have known each other such a comparatively short time. Pray sit down.
Still standing up.
I may call you Cecily, may I not?
With pleasure,
And you will always call me Gwendolyn, won't you?
if you wish.
Then that is all quite settled, is it not?
Quite hope so.
After a pause, they both sit down.
Perhaps this might be a favourable opportunity for my mentioning who I am. My father is Lord Bracknell. You have never heard of Papa, I suppose?
I don't think so.
Outside the family circle, Papa, I am glad to say, is entirely unknown. I think that is quite as it should be. The home seems to me to be the proper sphere for the man, and certainly, once a man begins to neglect his domestic duties, he becomes painfully effeminate, does he not? I don't like that. It makes men so very attractive. Cecily, Mamma, whose views on education are remarkably strict, has brought me up to be extremely short sighted. It's part of her system, so do you mind my looking at you through my glasses?
Oh, not at all, Gwendolyn. I'm very fond of being looked at.
After examining Cecily carefully through a lorgnette,
You are here on a short visit, I suppose.
Oh no, I live here.
Really? Your mother, no doubt, or some female relative of advanced years resides here also.
Oh no, I have no mother, nor in fact any relations.
Indeed?
My dear guardian, with the assistance of Miss Prism, has the arduous task of looking after me.
Your guardian?
Yes, I am Mr. Wooding's ward.
Oh, it is strange. He never mentioned to me that he had a ward. How secretive of him. He grows more interesting hourly. I am not sure, however, that the news inspires me with feelings of unmixed delight.
rising and going to her.
I'm very fond of you, Cecily. I have liked you ever since I met you. But I am bound to state that now that I know that you are Mr. Worthing's ward, I cannot help expressing a wish that you were, well, just a little older than you seem to be, and not quite so very alluring and experienced, in fact, if I may speak candidly.
Well, pray do. I think that whenever one has anything unpleasant to say, one should always be quite candid.
Well, to speak with perfect candour, Cecily, I wish that you were fully 42 and more than usually plain for your age. Ernest is a strong, upright nature. He's the very soul of truth and honour. Disloyalty would be as impossible to him as deception, but even men of the noblest possible moral character are extremely susceptible to the influence of the physical charms of others. Modern, no less ancient history supplies us with many most painful examples of what I refer to. If it were not so, indeed, history would be quite unreadable.
I, uh, I beg your pardon, Gwendolyn. Did you say Ernest?
Yes,
Oh, but it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is my guardian, and it's his brother, his elder brother.
Sitting down again.
Ernest never mentioned to me that he had a brother.
I'm sorry to say that they have not been on good terms for a long time.
Ah, that accounts for it. And now that I think of it, I've never heard any man mention his brother. The subject seems distasteful to most men. Cecily, you've lifted a load from my mind. I was growing almost anxious. It would have been terrible if any cloud had come across a friendship like ours, would it not? Of course, you are quite sure that it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is your guardian?
Quite sure. In fact, I'm going to be his.
I beg your pardon?
Dearest Gwendolyn, there is no reason why I should make a secret of it to you. A little county newspaper is sure to chronicle the fact next week. Mr. Ernest Worthing and I are engaged to be married.
Quite politely rising.
My darling Cecily, I think there must be some slight error. Mr. Ernest Worthing is engaged to me. The announcement will appear in the Morning Post on Saturday at the latest.
Very politely rising.
I am afraid you must be under some misconception. Ernest proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago.
She shows her the diary. Gwendolyn examines the diary through her lorgnette carefully.
It is certainly very curious, for he asked me to be his wife yesterday afternoon at 5:30. If you would care to verify the incident, pray do so.
She produces a diary of her own.
I never travel without my diary. One should always have something sensational to read on the train. I am so sorry, dear Cecily, if it is any disappointment to you, but I'm afraid I have the prior claim.
it, it would distress you more than I can tell you, dear Gwendolyn, if it caused you any mental or physical anguish, but I feel bound to point out that since Mr. Ernest proposed to you, he has clearly changed his mind.
If the poor fellow has been entrapped into any foolish promise, I shall consider it my duty to rescue him at once and with a firm hand.
Whatever unfortunate entanglement my dear boy may have got into, I will never reproach him with it after we are married.
Do you allude to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? You are presumptuous. On an occasion of this kind, it becomes more than a moral duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
Do you suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I entrap Ernest into an engagement? How dare you? This is no time for wearing a shallow mask of manners. What I see is a spade. I call it a spade.
I am glad to say that I have never seen a spade. It is obvious that our social spheres have been widely different.
Enter Merriman, followed by the footman. He carries a salver, tablecloth, and plate stand. Cecily is about to retort. The presence of the servants exercises a restraining influence under which both girls chafe.
Shall I lay the tea here as usual, miss?
Yes, as usual.
Merriman begins to clear the table and lay cloth. A long pause. Cecily and Gwendolyn stare at each other.
Are there many interesting walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew?
Oh, yes, a great many. On top of one of the hills, quite close, one can see 5 counties.
5 counties? I don't think I should like that. I hate crowds.
I suppose that is why you live in town.
Gwendolyn bites her lip and beats her foot nervously with her parasol. Looking around,
Quite a well-kept garden, this is, Miss Cardew.
So glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
I had no idea there were any flowers in the country.
Oh, flowers are common here, Miss Fairfax, as people are in London.
Personally, I cannot understand how anybody manages to exist in the country. Anybody who is anybody does. The country always bores me to death.
Ah, this is what the newspapers call agricultural depression, is it not? I believe the aristocracy are suffering very much from it just at present. It is almost an epidemic amongst them, I've been told. May I have you some tea, Miss Fairfax?
Thank you. Detestable girl, but I require tea.
Sugar?
No, thank you. Sugar's not fashionable anymore.
Oh,
Cecily looks angrily at her, takes up the tongs, and puts 4 lumps of sugar into her cup.
cake or butter? Cake or bread and butter?
Bread and butter, please. Cake is rarely seen at the best houses nowadays.
Cecily cuts a very large slice of cake and puts it on the tray.
Hand that to Miss Fairfax.
Merriman does so and goes out with footman. Gwendolyn drinks the tea and makes a grimace, puts down the cup at once, reaches out her hand for the bread and butter, looks at it, finds it is cake, rises in indignation.
You have filled my tea with lumps of sugar, and though I asked most distinctly for bread and butter, you have given me cake. I am known for the gentleness of my disposition and the extraordinary sweetness of my nature, but I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
Rising,
Save my poor, innocent, trusting boy from the machinations of any other girl. There are no lengths to which I would not go.
From the moment I saw you, I distrusted you. I felt that you were false and deceitful. I am never deceived in such manners. My first impressions of people are invariably right.
It seems to me, Miss Fairfax, that I am trespassing on your valuable time. No doubt you have many other calls of a similar character to make in the neighborhood.
enter Jack. Gwendolyn catching sight of him.
Ernest! My own Ernest!
Gwendolyn, darling.
Offers to kiss her, but Gwendolyn draws back.
A moment. May I ask if you were to be engaged to be married with this young lady?
She points to Cecily.
Dear little Cecily. Of course not. I would. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may.
She offers her cheek.
Ah, I knew there must be some misunderstanding, Miss Fairfax. The gentleman whose arms are present round your waist is my guardian, Mr. John Worthing.
I beg your pardon?
This is Uncle Jack.
Receding.
Jack!
Enter Algernon.
Here is Ernest, my Ernest.
Algernon goes straight over to Cecily without noticing anyone else.
My only love.
Offers to kiss her. Cecily drawing back.
A moment, Ernest. May I ask you, are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
Algernon looking around.
To what young lady? Gwendolyn! Good heavens!
Yes, to good heavens, Gwendolyn. Are you engaged to be married to good heavens, Gwendolyn?
Of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you.
Presenting her cheek to be kissed.
You may.
Algernon kisses her.
I felt there was some slight error, Miss Cardew. The gentleman who is now embracing you is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrief.
Cecily breaking away from Algernon.
Algernon Moncrief? Oh!
The two girls move towards each other and put their arms around each other's waists as if for protection.
Are you called Algernon?
I cannot deny it.
Oh!
Is your name really John?
Standing rather proudly.
I could deny it if I liked. I could deny anything if I liked, but my name certainly is John. It has been John for years.
Cecily to Gwendolyn.
A gross deception has been practiced on both.
My poor wounded Cecily.
My sweet wronged Gwendolyn.
You will call me sister, will you not?
They embrace. Jack and Algernon groan and walk up and down.
Ah!
There is just one question I would like to ask. I would like to be allowed to ask my guardian.
And Admiral, my dear, Mr. Worthing, there is just one question I would like to be permitted to put to you. Where is your brother Ernest? We are both engaged to be married to your brother Ernest, so it is a matter of some importance to us to know where your brother Ernest is at present.
Where's Ernest?
Gwendolyn, Cicely, it is very painful for me to be forced to speak the truth. It is the first time in my life that I have ever been reduced to such a painful position, and I'm really quite inexperienced in doing anything of the kind. However, I will tell you quite frankly that I have no brother Ernest. I have no brother at all. I never had a brother in my life, and I certainly have not the smallest intention of ever having one in the future.
No brother at all?
None.
Have you never a brother of any kind?
Never. Not even of any kind.
I am afraid it is quite clear, Cecily, that neither of us is engaged to be married to anyone.
It is it is not a very pleasant position for a young girl suddenly to find herself in, is it?
Let us go into the house. They will hardly venture to come after us there.
No, men are so cowardly, aren't they? Oh, I think I might faint.
They retire into the house with scornful looks.
This ghastly state of things is what you call bunburying, isn't it?
Yes, and a perfectly wonderful Bunbury it is. Most wonderful Bunbury I have ever had in my life.
We've no right whatsoever to bunbury here.
That is absurd. One has a right to Bunbury anywhere one chooses. Even every serious Bunburyist knows this.
Serious bunburyist! Good heavens!
Well, one must be serious about something if one wants to have any amusement in life. I happen to be serious about Bunbury. What on earth you are serious about, I haven't got the remotest idea. About everything, I should fancy. You have such an absolutely trivial nature.
Well, the only small satisfaction I have had in the whole of this wretched business is that your friend Bunbury is quite exploded. You'll be able to run down to the country quite so often as you used to, dear Algie, and a very good thing.
Your brother is a little off colour, isn't he, Jack? You won't be able to disappear to London quite so frequently as your wicked custom was. Well, not a bad thing, either.
As for your conduct towards Miss Cardew, I must say that you're taking a sweet, simple, innocent girl like that is quite inexcusable. To say nothing of the fact that she is my ward.
I can see no possible defence at all for your deceiving a brilliant, clever, thoroughly experienced young lady like Miss Fairfax, to say nothing of the fact that she is my cousin.
I wanted to be engaged to Gwendolyn. That is all. I love her.
Well, I simply wanted to be engaged to Cecily. I adore her.
There's certainly no chance you're marrying Miss Cardew.
I don't think there is much likelihood, Jack, of you and Miss Fairfax being united.
Well, that is no business of yours.
If it was my business, I wouldn't talk about it. It's very
Begins-
vulgar to talk about one's business. Only people like stockbrokers do that, and then merely at dinner parties.
How can you sit there, calmly eating muffins when we're in this horrible trouble I can't make out? You seem to me to be perfectly heartless.
Well, I can't eat muffins in an agitated manner. The butter would probably get on my cuff. One should always eat muffins quite calmly. It is the only way to eat them.
I say it's perfectly heartless you're eating muffins at all, under the circumstances.
When I am in trouble, eating is the only thing that consoles me. Indeed, when I am in really great trouble, as anyone who knows me intimately will tell you, I refuse everything except food and drink. At the present moment, I am eating muffins because I am unhappy. Besides, I am particularly fond of muffins.
They both rise.
Well, that is no reason why you should eat them all in a greedy way.
Jack takes the muffins from Algernon, Algernon offering tea cake.
I wish you would have a tea cake instead. I don't like tea cake.
Good heavens, I suppose a man may eat his own muffins in his own garden.
But you just said it was perfectly heartless to eat muffins.
I said it was perfectly heartless of you under the circumstances. That is a very different thing.
That may be, but the muffins are the same.
He seasons the muffin dish from Jack.
Algie, I wish to goodness you would go.
You can't possibly ask me to go without having some dinner. It's absurd. I never go without my dinner. No one ever does, except vegetarians and people like that. And besides, I have just made arrangements with Dr. Chasuble to be christened at 6:15 under the name of Earnest.
My dear fellow, the sooner you give up that nonsense, the better. I made arrangements with this morning with Dr. Chasuble to be christened myself at 5:30, and I naturally will take the name of Ernest. Gwendolyn would wish it. We can't both be christened Ernest. It's absurd. Besides, I have a perfect right to be christened if I like. There is no evidence at all that I have ever been christened by anybody. I should think it extremely probable I never was, and so does Mr. Chasuble. It is entirely different in your case. You have been christened already.
Yes, but I have not been christened for years.
Yes, but you have been christened. That is the important thing.
Quite so. So I know my constitution can stand it. If you are not quite sure about your ever having been christened, I must say I think you're rather dangerous you're venturing on it now. It might make you very unwell. You can hardly have forgotten that someone very closely connected with you was nearly carried off with this week in Paris by a severe chill.
Yes, but you said yourself that a severe chill was not hereditary.
It used to be, I know, but I dare say it is now. Science is always making wonderful improvements in things.
Jack picks up the muffin dish.
Oh, that is nonsense. You're always talking nonsense.
Jack, you were at the muffins again. I guess you wouldn't. There are only two left.
He takes them.
I told you I was particularly fond of muffins.
But I hate tea cake.
Why on earth didn't you allow tea cake to be served up for your guests? What ideas do you have of hospitality?
Algernon, I already have told you to go. I don't want you here. Why won't you go?
I haven't quite finished my tea yet. And there's still one muffin left.
Ugh.
Jack sinks into a chair. Algernon still continues eating. End of Act 2. We started Act 3, morning room in the manor house. Gwendolyn and Cecily are at the window looking out into the garden.
The fact that they did not follow us at once into the house as anyone else would have done seems to me to show that they have some sense of shame left.
They have been eating muffins. That looks like repentance.
They don't seem to notice us at all. Couldn't you cough?
They haven't got a cough.
They're looking at us. What effrontery.
They're approaching. That's very forward of them.
Let us preserve a dignified silence.
Certainly, it's the only thing to do now.
Enter Jack, followed by Algernon. They whistle some dreadful popular air from a British opera.
This dignified silence seems to produce an unpleasant effect.
A most distasteful one.
We will not be the first to speak.
Certainly not.
Mr. Worthing, I have something very particular to ask you. Much depends on your reply.
Gwendolyn, your common sense is invaluable. Mr. Moncrief, kindly answer me the following question. Why did you pretend to be my guardian's brother?
In order that I might have the opportunity of meeting you.
Cecily to Gwendolyn.
That certainly seems a satisfactory explanation, does it not?
Yes, dear, if you can believe him.
I don't, but that does not affect the wonderful beauty of his answer.
True. In matters of grave importance, style, not sincerity, is the vital thing. Mr. Worthing, what explanation can you offer to me for pretending to have a brother? Was it in order that you might have an opportunity of coming up to town to see me as often as possible?
Can you doubt it, Miss Fairfax?
I have the gravest doubts upon the subject, but I intend to crush them. This is not the moment for German skepticism.
Moving to Cecily.
Their explanations appear to be quite satisfactory, especially Mr. Worthing's. It seems to me to have the stamp of truth upon it.
I'm more than content with what Mr. Moncrief said. His personality inspires one with absolute credulity.
Then you think we should forgive them?
Yes, I mean, no.
True, I had forgotten. There are principles at stake that one cannot surrender. Which of us should tell them? The task is not a pleasant one.
Could we not both speak at the same time?
An excellent idea. I nearly always speak at the same time as other people. Will you take the time from me?
Certainly.
Gwendolyn beats the time with her uplifted finger.
Your Christian
The
names
names are
are
still
still an unsuperable barrier.
barrier. That
That is all.
Our Christian names. Is that
What's
all?
your Christian names?
But we are going to be christened this afternoon.
For
Gwendolyn to
my
Jack.
sake, for my sake, you are prepared to do this terrible thing?
I am.
And Cecily to
Gwendolyn.
Algernon.
You are ready to face this fearful ordeal? Algernon. I thought
I
you
am.
loved me. Oh, you are.
How absurd to talk of the equality of the sexes! Where questions of self sacrifice are concerned, men are infinitely beyond us.
Oh,
We are.
He claps
They
hands with
have-
Algernon.
we have moments of physical courage which we women know absolutely nothing.
Darling!
Darling,
Darling.
darling.
Algernon and Cecily fall into each other's arms. Enter Merriman, where he coughs loudly, seeing the situation.
Ahem, ahem, a lady, a Bracknell.
Good heavens.
Enter Lady Bracknell. The couple separate in alarm. Exit Merriman.
Gwendolyn, what does this mean?
Merely that I am engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Come here. Sit down. Sit down immediately. Hesitation of any kind is a sign of mental decay in the young, of physical weakness in the old.
She turns to Jack.
Apprised, sir, of my daughter's sudden flight by her trusty maid, whose confidence I purchased by means of a small coin, I followed her at once by a luggage train. Her unhappy father is, I am glad to say, under the impression that she is attending a more than usually lengthy lecture at the university extension scheme on the influence of a permanent income on thought. I do not propose to undeceive him. Indeed, I have never undeceived him on any question. I would consider it wrong. But of course, you will clearly understand that all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease immediately from this moment. On this point, as indeed on all points, I am firm.
I am engaged to be married to Gwendolyn, Lady Bracknell.
You are nothing of the kind, sir. And now, as regards Algernon. Algernon,
Yes, Aunt Alistair.
may I ask if it is in this house that your invalid friend Mr. Bunbury resides? Cat got your tongue?
Oh,
Oh,
I came
no.
up Bunbury this afternoon.
Bunbury doesn't live here. Bunbury is somewhere else at present. In fact, Bunbury is dead.
Dead! When did Mr. Bunbury die? His death must have been extremely sudden.
Oh, I killed Bunbury this afternoon. I mean, poor Bunbury died this afternoon.
What did he die of?
Bunbury. Oh, he was quite exploded.
He's just crying out, yeah.
Exploded. Was he the victim of a revolutionary outrage? I was not aware that Mr. Bunbury was interested in social legislation. If so, he is well punished for his morbidity.
My dear Aunt Augusta, I mean, he was found out. The doctors found out that Bunbury could live. That is what I mean. So, Bunbury died.
Huh. He seems to have had great confidence in the opinion of his physicians. I am glad, however, that he made up his mind at the last to have some definite course of action and acted under proper medical advice. And now that we've finally got rid of this Mr. Bunbury, may I ask, Mr. Worthing, who is that young person whose hand my nephew Algernon is now holding in what seems to be a particularly unnecessary manner?
That lady is Miss Cecily Cardew.
And you?
My word.
Lady Bracknell bows coldly to Cecily.
I am engaged to be married to Cecily, Aunt Augusta.
I I beg your pardon.
Mr. Noncliffe and I are engaged to be married, Lady Buckner.
With a shiver, crossing to the sofa and sitting down.
I do not know whether there is anything particularly exciting in the air of this particular part of Hertfordshire, but the number of engagements that go on seems to me considerably above the proper average that statistics have laid down for our guidance. I think some preliminary inquiry on my part would not be out of place. Sorry, that's my dog if you can hear that. Mr. Worthing, is Miss Cardew at all connected with any of the larger railway stations in London? I merely desire information. Until yesterday, I had no idea there were any families or persons whose origin was a terminus.
Jack looks perfectly furious, but restrains himself.
Miss Cardew is the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Cardew of 149 Belgrave Square, SW, Gervais Park, Dorking, Surrey, and the Sporran, Fifeshire. and B.
That sounds not unsatisfactory. 3 addresses always inspire confidence, even in tradesmen. But what proof have I of their authenticity?
I have carefully preserved the court guides of the period they are open to your inspection, Lady Bracknell.
I have known strange errors in that publication.
Miss Cardew's family solicitors are Messrs. Markby, and Markby.
Markby, and Markby, a firm of the very highest position in their profession. Indeed, I am told that one of the Mr. Markbys is occasionally to be seen at dinner parties. So far, I am satisfied.
How extremely kind of you, Lady Bracknell. I have also in my possession, you'll be pleased to hear, certificates of Miss Cardew's birth, baptism, whooping cough, registration, vaccination, confirmation, and the measles. Both the German and the English variety.
Ah, a life crowded with incident, I see. Though perhaps somewhat too exciting for a young girl. I am not myself in favor of premature experiences.
She rises and looks at her watch.
Gwendolen, the time approaches for our departure. We have not a moment to lose. As a matter of form, Mr. Worthing, I had better ask you if Miss Cardew has any little fortune?
Oh, about £130,000 in the funds. That is all. Goodbye, Lady Bracknell. So pleased to have seen you.
She sits down again.
A moment, Mr. Worthing. £130,000. And in the funds. Miss Cardew seems to be a most attractive young lady now that I look at her. Few girls of the present day have had really any solid qualities, any of the qualities that last and improve with time. We live, I regret to say, in an age of surfaces.
To
Come over
Cecily.
here. Come over here, dear.
Cecily goes across.
Pretty child, your dress is sadly simple, and your hair seems almost as nature might have left it. But we can soon alter that. A thoroughly experienced French maid produces a really marvelous result in a very brief space of time. I remember recommending one to young Lady Lancey, and after 3 months her own husband did not know her.
And after 6 months, nobody knew her.
She glares at Jax for a few moments, then bends with a practiced smile to Cecily.
Kindly turn around, sweet child.
Cecily turns completely round.
No, the side view is what I want.
Cecily presents her profile.
Yes, quite as I expected. There are distinct social possibilities in your profile. The 2 weak points in our age are its want of principle and its want of profile. The chin a little higher, dear. Style largely depends on the way the chin is worn. They are worn very high just at present. Algernon!
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
There are distinct social possibilities in Miss Cardew's profile.
Cecily is the sweetest, dearest, prettiest girl in the whole world. I don't care things about social possibilities.
Ugh. Never speak disrespectfully of society, Algernon. Only people who can't get into it do that.
To Cecily.
Dear child, of course you know that Algernon has nothing but his debts to depend on, but I do not approve of mercenary marriages. When I married Lord Bracknell, I had no fortune of any kind, but I never dreamed for a moment of allowing that to stand in my way. Well, I suppose I must give my consent.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Cecily, you may kiss me.
She kisses her.
Passionately.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell.
You may also address me as Aunt Augusta for the future.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
The marriage, I think, had better take place quite soon.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
To speak frankly, I am not in favor of long engagements. They give people the opportunity of finding out each other's character before marriage, which I think is never.
I beg your pardon for interrupting you, Lady Bracknell, but this engagement is quite out of the question. I am Miss Cardew's guardian, and she cannot marry without my consent until she comes of age. That consent I absolutely decline to give.
Upon what grounds, may I ask? Algernon is an extremely, I may almost say an ostentatiously, eligible young man. He has nothing, but he looks everything. What more can one desire?
It pains me very much to have to speak frankly to you, Lady Bracknell, about your nephew, but the fact is that I do not approve at all of his moral character. I suspect him of being untruthful.
Algernon and Cecily look at him in indignant amazement.
Untruthful? My nephew Algernon? Impossible. He's an Oxonian.
Eh,
I fear there can be no possible doubt about the matter. This afternoon, during my temporary absence to London on an important question of romance, he obtained admission to my house by means of the false pretense of being my brother. Under an assumed name, he drank, I'd just been informed that by my butler, an entire pint of my Perrier Jouet 89 wine I was specially reserving for myself. Continuing his disgraceful deception, he succeeded in the course of the afternoon in alienating the affections of my only ward. He subsequently stayed to tea and devoured every single muffin.
No,
And what makes his conduct all the more heartless, that he was perfectly well aware from the first that I have no brother, that I have never had a brother, and that I don't intend to have a brother, not of any kind. I strictly told him myself yesterday afternoon.
Mr. Worthing, after careful consideration, I've decided entirely to overlook my nephew's conduct to you.
That is very generous of you, Lady Bracknell. My own decision, however, is unalterable. I decline to give my consent.
To Cecily.
Come here, sweet child.
okay.
Cecily goes over.
How old are you, dear?
Well, I'm really only 18, but I always admit the 20 when I go to evening parties.
You are perfectly right in making some slight alteration. Indeed, no woman should ever be quite accurate about her age. It looks so calculating. 18, but admitting to 20 at evening parties. Well, it will not be very long before you are of age and free from the restraints of tutelage. So I don't think your guardian's consent is, after all, a matter of any importance.
Pray excuse me, Lady Bracknell, for interrupting you again, but it is only fair to tell you that according to the terms of her grandfather's will, Miss Cardew does not come legally of age until she is 35.
That does not seem to me to be a grave objection. 35 is a very attractive age. London society is full of women of the very highest birth who have, of their own free choice, remained 35 for years. Lady Dumbleton is an instance in point.
Not the only
To
one.
my own knowledge, she has been 35 ever since she arrived at the age of 40, which was many years ago now. I see no reason why our dear Cecily should not even be still more attractive at the age you mention than she is at present. There will be a large accumulation of property.
Angie, could you wait for me till I was 35?
of course I could, Cecily. You know I could.
Yes, I felt it instinctively, but I couldn't wait all that time. I hate waiting even 5 minutes for anybody. I, it always makes me rather cross. I'm not punctual myself, I know, but I do like punctuality in others, and waiting, even being married, is quite out of the question.
Then what is to be done, Cecily?
I don't know, Mr. Moncrief.
My dear Mr. Worthing, As Miss Cardew states positively that she cannot wait until she's 35, a remark which I'm bound to say seems to me show a somewhat impatient nature, I would beg of you to reconsider your decision.
But, my dear Lady Bracknell, the matter's entirely in your own hands. The moment you consent to my marriage with Gwendolen, I will most gladly allow your nephew to form an alliance with my ward.
Rising and drawing herself up.
You must be quite aware that what you propose is out of the question.
Then a passionate celibacy is all that any of us can look forward to.
That is not the destiny I propose for Gwendolen. Algernon, of course, can choose for himself.
She pulls out her watch.
Come, dear.
Gwendolyn rises.
We've already missed 5, if not 6, trains. To miss any more might expose us to comment on the platform.
Enter Dr. Chasuble.
Everything is quite ready for the christenings?
The christening, sir? Is that not somewhat premature?
Looking rather puzzled and pointing to Jack and Algernon.
Both these gentlemen have expressed a desire for immediate baptism.
At their age, the idea is grotesque and irreligious. Algernon, I forbid you to be baptized. I will not hear of such excesses. Lord Bracknell would be highly displeased if he learned that this was the way in which you wasted your time and money.
Am I to understand that there are to be no christenings at all this afternoon?
I don't think that, as things are now, it would be of much practical value to either of us, Dr. Chasuble.
I am grieved to hear such sentiments from you, Mr. Worthing. They savor of the most heretical views of the Anabaptists, views that I have completely refuted in 4 of my unpublished sermons. However, as your present mood seems to be one peculiarly secular, I will return to the church at once. Indeed, I have just been informed by the pew opener that for the last hour and a half Miss Prism has been waiting for me in the vestry.
Miss Prism? Did I hear you mention a Miss Prism?
Yes, Lady Bracknell, I am on my way to join her.
Pray allow me to detain you for a moment. This matter may prove to be one of vital importance to Lord Bracknell and myself. Is this Miss Prism a female of repellent aspect remotely connected with education?
She is the most cultivated of ladies, and the very picture of respectability.
It is obviously the same person. May I ask what position she holds in your household?
I am celibate, madam.
Miss Prism, Lady Bracknell, has been for the last 3 years Miss Cardew's esteemed governess and valued companion.
In spite of what I hear of her, I must see her at once. Let her be sent for.
She approaches. She is nigh.
Enter Miss Prism hurriedly.
I was told that you expected me in the vestry, dear Canon. I have been waiting for you there for an hour and 3/4.
She catches sight of Lady Bracknell, who has fixed her with a stony glare. Miss Prism grows pale and quails. She looks proud. She looks anxiously round, as if desirous to escape.
Prism!
Miss Prism bows her head in shame.
Come here, Prism.
Miss Prism approaches in a humble manner.
Prism, where is that baby?
General consternation. The canon starts back in horror. Algernon and Jack pretend to be anxious to shield Cecily and Gwendolen from hearing the details of a terrible public scandal.
28 years ago, Prism, you left Lord Bracknell's house, number 104, Upper Governor Street, in charge of a perambulator that contained a baby of the male sex. You never returned. A few weeks later, though, the elaborate investigations of the Metropolitan Police, the perambulator was discovered at midnight, standing by itself in a remote corner of Bayswater. It contained the manuscript of a 3-volume novel, usually revolting sentimentality. But the baby was not there.
Everyone looks at Miss Prism.
Prism, where is that baby?
Lady Bracknell, I admit with shame that I do not know. I only wish I did. The plain facts of the case are these. On the morning of the day you mention, a day that is forever branded on my memory, I prepared as usual to take the baby out in its perambulator. I had also with me a somewhat old but capacious handbag in which I had intended to place the manuscript of a work of fiction that I had written during my few unoccupied hours. In a moment of mental abstraction, for which I never can forgive myself, I deposited the manuscript in the bassinet and placed the baby in the handbag.
But where did you deposit the handbag?
Do not ask me, Mr. Worthing.
Miss Prism, this is a matter of no small importance to me. I insist on knowing where you disposed that handbag that contained that infant.
I left it in the cloakroom of one of the larger railway stations in London.
What railway station?
Victoria, the Brighton line.
She sinks into a chair.
I must retire to my room for a moment. Gwendolyn, wait here for me.
If you're not too long, I will wait here for you all my life.
Exit Jack in great excitement.
What do you think this means, Lady Bracknell?
I dare not even suspect, Mr. Chasuble. I need hardly tell you that in families of high position, strange coincidences are not supposed to occur. They are hardly considered the thing.
Everybody looks up.
Uncle Jacques seems strangely agitated.
Your guardian has a very emotional nature.
This noise is extremely unpleasant. It sounds as if he was having an argument. I dislike arguments of any kind. They are always vulgar and often convincing.
Huh. It has stopped now.
I wish he would arrive at some conclusion.
This suspense is terrible. I hope it will last.
Enter Jack with a handbag of black leather in his hands, rushing over to Miss Prism.
Is this the handbag, Miss Prism? Examine it carefully before you speak. The happiness of more than one life depends on your answer.
It seems to be mine. Yes. Here's the injury it received through the upsetting of a Gower Street omnibus in younger and happier days. Here is the stain on the lining caused by the explosion of a temperance beverage, an incident that occurred at Leamington. And here, on the lock, are my initials. I had forgotten that in an extravagant mood I had had them placed there. The bag is undoubtedly mine. Oh, I am delighted to have it so unexpectedly restored to me. It has been a great inconvenience being without it all these years.
Miss Prism, more is restored to you than this handbag. I was the baby you placed in it.
You?
Yes, mother.
Mr. Worthing, I am unmarried.
Unmarried? I do not deny that it is a serious blow. But after all, who has the right to cast a stone against the one who has suffered? Cannot repentance wipe out an act of folly? Why should there be one of law for men and another for women? Mother, I forgive you.
He tries to embrace her.
Mr. Worthing, there is some error.
She points to Lady Bracknell.
There is the lady who can tell you who you really are.
Lady Bracknell. I hate to seem inquisitive, but would you kindly inform me who I am?
I am afraid that the news I have to give you will not altogether please you. You are the son of my poor sister, Mrs. Moncrief, and consequently Algernon's elder brother.
Algy's elder brother. Then I have a brother after all. I knew I had a brother. I always said I had a brother. Cicely, how could you have ever doubted that I had a brother?
He seizes hold of Algernon.
Dr. Chasuble, my unfortunate brother. Miss Prism, my unfortunate brother. Gwendolyn, my unfortunate brother. Algy, you young scoundrel, you will have to treat me with more respect in the future. You have never behaved to me like a brother in all your life.
Well, not till today, old boy, I admit. I did my best, however, though I was out of practice.
They shake hands, Gwendolyn to Jack.
My own! But what own are you? What is your Christian name now that you've become someone else?
Good heavens, he's still eating. And I have quite forgotten about that point. Your decision on the subject of my name is irrevocable, I suppose.
I never change except in my infections.
Then the question had better be
Nathan,
cleared
you
up
have
at once.
Gwendolyn.
Then the question had better be cleared up at once, Aunt Augusta, a moment. At the time when Miss Prism left me the handbag, had I been christened already?
Every luxury that money could buy, including christening, had been lavished on you by your fond and doting parents.
Then I was christened. That is settled. Now, what name was I given? Let me know the worst.
Being the eldest son, you were naturally christened after your father.
Yes, but what was my father's Christian name?
I cannot at the present moment recall what General Christian's name was, but I have no doubt he had one. He was eccentric, I admit, and only my brother, but only in later years, and that was the result of the Indian climate, and marriage, and indigestion, and other things of that kind.
Can't you recollect what our father's Christian name was?
My dear boy, we were never even on speaking terms. He died before I was a year old.
His name would appear in the army list of a period, I suppose, Aunt Augusta?
The general was essentially a man of peace, except in his domestic life, but I have no doubt his name would appear in any military directory.
The army list of the last 40 years are here. This delightful records should have been my constant study.
He rushes to the bookcase and tears out the books out.
Generals, Malum, Maxbohm, Magley, what ghastly names they have. Mark B, Miggs B, Mobs, Moncrief, Lieutenant 840, Captain, Lieutenant, Colonel, General 1869, Christian names, Earnest John!
Puts book very quietly down and speaks quite calmly.
I've always told you, Gwendolyn. My name was Earnest, didn't I? Well, it is Earnest after all. I mean, it naturally is Earnest.
Uncle Jack, are you okay?
Yes, I remember now that the general was called Ernest. I knew I had some particular reason for disliking.
Ernest! My own Ernest! I felt from the first that you could have no other name.
Gwendolyn, it is a terrible thing for a man to find out suddenly that all his life he has been speaking nothing but the truth. Can you forgive me?
I can, for I feel that you are sure to change.
For my own one.
To Miss Prism,
Letitia.
he embraces her.
Frederick, at last.
Cecily!
He embraces her.
At last!
Gwendolyn, I mean, hold on.
Embraces her.
My nephew, you seem to be displaying signs of trivility.
On the contrary, Aunt Augusta, I've now realized for the first time in my life the vital importance of being earnest.
And terrible.
Yay!
End play.
And he's still eating!
Congratulations.
Oh,
Still eating!
Oh my god.
muffins are infinite.
Also, need to say the joke once. Roll credits.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Nice.
Oh, there we go.
This play
There
was a
we
lot more
go.
fun than I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah.
I'm so
That
glad
was
I didn't read
actually-
it beforehand.
I'm actually like wiping away tears.
Yeah.
I did read it, but I didn't quite experience it until now. First
Did you
time.
think
Me neither.
Did you really think that people are only stupid in Shakespeare plays?
No.
Uh,
No.
I
I-
still vote that Cecily and Gwendolyn should be the one true ship of this play.
Yes.
Truly.
Yeah.
Cecily.
And they're
Cecily,
all
won't you marry
cousins,
me?
by the way. Just so, like, I said
Yeah,
that
that's the
earlier,
weird
but, like,
bit.
they're all cousins. They're all marrying their cousins.
Yeah.
There's also supposed to be
Yeah.
weird
Not
gay
Cecily and
subtext
Gwendolyn.
between.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Cecily and Gwendolyn.
Yeah.
I
They're
support
not-
you too.
They're not cousins since Jack isn't related to Cecily. They're not cousins.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
fine. We have
Yeah.
one gay ship that works
Yeah.
here that isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
As
Algernon,
long as we have
is
one
not
gay
related
ship.
to Cecily, but if, like, they're all, like, it's all Aunt Augusta, so it's like, you, like,
God damn it, Aunt Augusta.
I have
yeah.
I have
Who
some
was the son?
vitally important information. There is apparently a whole song about muffins in the Takayusa musical version of this.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
Every single muffin.
It's muffin
Yep.
time.
And he
Who
doesn't
wants
like
the
tea cakes.
muffin?
I like to die.
We're gonna run to the cast.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the listing that's on Twitch. Let's start with Jack, played by Casper.
Hello. I regrettably don't have a confident British dialect down, so I didn't do British dialect. I'm sorry.
You did
Um,
amazing.
It's
So
really
good.
not.
It
You gotta
was
stop
great.
reminding people. And you can find me commonly on twitch.tv/eclipsetrooper, where I try to frequently stream games, and we'll start streaming D&D soon. Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay, and now Algernon, played by Crow.
Hello. That was fucking amazing. I've eaten 12 chocolate chip mini muffins today.
Oh, I'm
9 of
so
them.
upset. I thought they were like full muffins. I thought you would be the most full person by now.
Oh,
Same.
I would have
Bless
been
Bruce.
so sick if I had eaten full-size muffins. But yeah, I ate 9 muffins over the course of this play. So
But I thought you said
You're
there's a dozen.
welcome.
Why
Method
there's still
acting,
things
huh?
left?
Take
Just-
one for the team.
yeah, I don't really have anything to plug. I don't do anything on the internet.
Except for this. So you should sub to Croakspeare.
Yeah, subscribe to
Yes.
Croakspeare. That's the
Well,
only
I guess
place
you
you're
can't
ever
yet, but
gonna
follow
find me.
Croakspeare.
Follow.
Whatever. When we eventually never become Twitch partner, then you can
yeah.
subscribe.
Yeah, it's totally gonna happen with our 11 viewers.
Oh hell yeah!
I mean, to become
That
a
are
Twitch.
half.
Okay.
How many of us? How many of you? How many are
I'm
just
watching.
I'm not watching at the moment.
I'm watching.
I'm
watching.
watching.
I'm watching.
I
Most of the
committed-
time, it is just us.
All right, so half
Yeah.
of us is.
I believe I committed 3 viewers to this.
No, we're having a
Italy.
good time.
My English teacher was one of the viewers at one point. I don't know if she's still here. If you are, hi Miss Quick. Hemingway is good. I forgot to say that during the play. Hemingway is good, actually.
Oh my gosh.
He's an important Earnest.
Stop being. Stop being.
All right. Next
Okay, so
person.
yep, Gwendolyn, played by Ratman.
Hello. I had something I was gonna say. I forgot. I do have. Would like to plug my Instagram where I post like art I do and memes and stuff.
a good
I'll put it in
Instagram.
the chat. I changed the name, but I would like to say, Cecily, will you marry me?
Gwendolyn.
Cecily.
Yes.
Oh,
Burn
It's happening live, folks. It's happening live.
Yes.
I'll play the wedding march.
I had our engagement 3 months ago.
Da, 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 da.
And speaking of
Lesbian
which,
rights.
Fan theory that Gwendolyn and Cecily start bun boring with each other.
yes, of
Oh,
course.
yes.
wink, wink.
And speaking of which, Cecily played by Haim.
Ah, hello, hey, bada bing, bada boom, it's me, huh?
Hey,
The resident New Yorker.
walking
Yeah, I don't have anything to plug, but I leave you with this. Miss Fair.
Oh my gosh.
Amazing.
Beautiful.
I know
That's
I'm Miss
great.
Fairfax.
Cecily was already a bit of a loon, but
Yes, she had a few loose screws.
Took it 200.
That's not the
Happens
only thing
to the
that's
best of
loose.
us.
Well, hey.
Cecily deserved to go feral, and I'm so
Yeah.
glad that she did.
I
yeah, like,
appreciate feral Cecily.
Yeah.
yeah, like
I mean,
I get the impression that Cecily is like
Yeah.
I mentioned this in the private chat, but it's like I think Cecily is like homeschooled and was kept away from other people in the hope of keeping her mind pure, and it just made her go bonkers.
Probably.
I
Yeah.
feel like
guys know
everyone in this play was just completely out of their minds.
Well,
Especially
yeah,
at the end of it, everyone was just screaming.
yeah, but
They're
there
all
are
just
levels, you know.
self-inserts.
Yeah.
Casper lost his fucking mind.
I mean,
Okay.
I just
Yeah.
played what I'm feeling right now.
You notice how I mispronounced
Dying
it?
inside is good.
Casper had the screaming. Haim was feral. I was eating muffins.
It
Really?
was, it was beautiful.
All right, who's next?
And now on to the one person who stayed somewhat proper throughout the whole show, Lady Bracknell, played by Sonia Liliqui.
Don't forget,
Ooh.
she's 35.
Well, if anyone's going to remain proper despite the circumstances, it's going to be Lady Brack.
Of
She's
course.
Still 35.
I mean, she was fun to play, but she wouldn't be a fun person to know in real life.
Oh
Wow.
no.
No.
You killed it though.
That was
Thank you.
amazing.
Although I felt like my accent wasn't completely consistent, but
Whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't
Accents
notice, so it
don't
doesn't matter.
I knew I
Upset
couldn't commit to
we
one.
didn't do the Boston.
Yeah, we did. We kind of abandoned that.
yeah. I was very
am.
like they were talking that they were all going to be doing Brooklyn accents when they come back after the crash, and I was like, please no. At the very least, I'm not until the third act, so I'll be done by then.
It's funny because, like, I as I realized as I was going through the play, I started picking up the British dialect, so
yeah.
that was fun.
I think I started losing the received pronunciation after the unintentional second intermission. I think that was
Yeah.
just when it started to drop off the face of the earth. It was
I
amazing.
think that's when everything went off the rails.
As it should.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. It was a
Oh.
perfectly reasonable response to the circumstances.
How Oscar Wilde wanted this play to happen.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
a very accurate version of the importance of being earnest.
It's so sad that only
Exactly.
10 people are watching, and most of them are probably us.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna get
Yeah.
archived.
All right, who's next?
And now to the person who brought all this chaos to a head, Miss Prism, played by Cheesable.
Hey.
Oops.
Yes.
It just happens. You know, you kind of forget. Like you've got a book, and books are kind of similar to babies, right? So you just
Yeah.
switch them,
the
and
fuck?
They're like the same weight, right?
Like 5 years just down the toilet. Thought it was a
look,
book.
I'm too busy. Also,
Bruh.
look,
That's a real bruh moment.
It
it's
really
not
is.
my fault. Jeez.
You must be
Everybody's
joshing.
painting everything on.
Mom!
I'm unmarried. Don't say things like that.
Do you have
But
anything
hopefully I'm married
to
soon.
plug?
Sorry. No, I don't have anything to plug. I just do this for the fun of it because, oh my goodness, it is so fun to just overact everything because audio is great. Just, yeah, thanks for running this, and everybody who's, like, not here is just missing out, and everybody should just follow Croakspeare because
Yep. I agree.
Yep.
Follow Croakspeare on Twitch because that's got a decision.
And the Twitter.
True.
Follow
Okay.
Croakspeare on everything. And
Right.
YouTube.
Follow us
Subscribe to
home.
us on YouTube.
Wait, no,
We're
that's bad decision.
everywhere.
Okay, now
Let's
to
make
the
an Instagram account.
now to the Reverend Chasuble Cillian.
Hello. This was fun. I don't think I've ever played a priest in anything, ever. So yes, that was a just that alone was an experience, and then also being vaguely flirted with by a governess.
Wink, wink.
Yeah, and not apparently caring about the fact that she lost a baby 28 years ago. So
As I said, it's
that is-
perfectly understandable. It happens. It's an honest mistake.
5 years of friendships, man! Oh god! Like zoinks!
Zoink Scoob!
Zoinks, Scoob!
Yep. So yeah, you can find me on at Cillian_SYLIEN on Twitter, which is where I'm mostly found, and then I also stream on Vanaheim Games every Monday and Wednesday. I'm currently streaming Dragon Age 2 and almost done. It's fun.
Nice.
So yeah.
Okay, now to the poor servants that had to carry all this craziness, starting with Lane, played by Sam.
Who's not here?
Sam left.
Oh,
Yes, Sam had to go.
okay. Well, that's who played Lane, and then also someone who doesn't get paid nearly enough for what they do, Merriman, played by Sarah.
We paid them enough.
Yes, I shall represent the working classes. I massively enjoyed this, folks. Everyone was really good. It was amazing. It was so much fun. This play is great, and everybody was great. I don't really have anything to plug. I'm just sort of here on Croakspeare, and that's the only real place I live on the internet at the moment. So look at Croakspeare, do Croakspeare related things. It's a load of fun.
I'll wait until we're done with introductions, but I just remembered something to plug. Keep going, though.
Okay, I'll make a quick. Last person is the narrator, me, not a vampire. This was fun. It was my first Croakspeare thing doing, my first time being narrator. The place that you can find me is on YouTube YouTube. You can find me my channel, Not a Vampire. I talk about media like Degrassi, TV shows, musicals, and LGBT plus stuff. So yeah,
Weird question. What's Degrassi?
all of the Degrassis, except all the Degrassi's except for Kids of Degrassi Street.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Degrassi is fucking incredible. Okay, it is the greatest television show of our time. Nothing has come close to it.
Exactly. That's
Okay.
why I've dedicated half my channel to it.
Qualms against that, and you'll hate me forever. But I can also tell you something once the stream ends that'll make you love me forever. So there's both.
Okay.
So the
first,
thing
I just want to say you can
Sorry.
put a link in the chat to your channel if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, and that ends introductions.
It's
just
so
like
funny
to
to
stop.
me that when Miss Prism said I'm not married, Jack immediately decided to start virtue signaling and saying he was woke even though he clearly didn't mean it.
The thing I forgot to plug. Fingers crossed. Croakspeare is actually going to be back this Friday because the Thunderdome / Funtime / Casual Croakspeare crew are going to be finishing the Adventures of Henry V. So we're going to be back hopefully about 6 p.m. GMT on this Friday, so that's the 22nd. And Thunderdomes are a fun time of chaos and bad maths from me, and everybody plays multiple characters at once. Last time we had 7 cast members for Henry IV Part 2, and we had 50 characters to play. Fucking hell. But today we have a slightly smaller cast to fill, and we've still got the same people. So in this chat right now, I believe Sarah and Cillian are hopefully both going to be with us then.
Definitely.
Perhaps
You
reprising
bet.
some roles, perhaps not reprising some roles, perhaps some
I
of the
think
roles
all of my-
died in the last play.
I think all of my characters died, and I had 7 characters.
Oh god.
think-
So we're
I
gonna see how
think-
that goes. Yeah, we've
I
got a
think the
bunch of
page
them.
is still alive. I
Oh,
think the
thank
page
God.
is still alive, and none of my other ones, though he's called a different name in the script, so that's
Oh,
gonna be
rip.
I also think maybe Warwick is still alive, but I know that Hastings and Mowbray are definitely dead.
oh,
Amazing. So if you want to come back for a historical play in which I am going to be reciting over 800 lines playing King Henry V,
Have fun.
you can do that, I guess, if you want.
Yep.
It's gonna be great. We're all
I mean-
gonna cry.
On the plus side, we all get to experience once more Onto the Breach. So
This
that's
is also
great.
the funny accent play. This is the one with
Yes.
the ridiculous accent brigade. So yeah, feel free
I
to come
mean,
along for that.
It's
I'm trying to convince-
because I feel like I should do one of these because I do have at least. I think I officially have like 10 voices I can do now. So I can do a
Amazing.
different
Yeah.
voice for a different character.
You'll have to
So
join
you
us.
do all the French.
We're planning on
trying to-
doing 12th night in December.
Nice.
I'm so
Nice.
down. Like,
I
sorry,
will-
but that like 12th night was like one of the plays I started on. So
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'll pop you on
Duke
the spreadsheet.
Orsino was my boy back like 10 years ago. Holy shit!
I need to be in 12 night, just somehow.
I also still need to be Puck from Midsummers.
Yeah, and I need to be. Yeah, you need to be Puck. That's correct.
All right. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Also,
I
thank
just
you
like
to
the-
Atlas for like and getting
Yes.
this set up,
Of course.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Atlas.
despite technical difficulties.
I was gonna say, despite like moving of furniture or whatever that was.
Thank you to Atlas's
Very good.
22-year-old brother.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, shout out to 20.
Thank you, Atlas.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
Atlas.
And thank you guys for an incredible performance.
Yeah, everyone else did really well.
Yeah.
Well, you did well too. Everyone did well.
Everyone did well.
Everyone did fucking
Everybody did
amazing.
great. Nobody self-criticized, at least not severely. I like even
Fuck
I
you!
know I
I'll
did
hate
well.
I'll hate my
I
performance
didn't
as
do
much
as
as I
well
want.
as I would like,
allowed to
but I
hate
know I did
yourself.
well.
You're
Not allowed.
You're
By
said
the
I'm allowed to hate
muffins
my
that I ate
performance of
during this
myself.
play. By the muffins that I nearly choked on because it's really difficult to eat 9 muffins in quick succession, apparently. You're not allowed to hate yourself. It's me that should
I
be
never
doing
said
that.
I hated
Why
myself. I
you
said I hated my
muffins?
performance because I couldn't do the accent.
Ah.
Your performance was
Well, Gwendolyn
fantastic.
actually said the thing that we should all keep in mind. Never call me perfect. I don't want to be perfect because that means I can't improve.
Yeah.
Quite,
yeah.
quite.
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 Like
Yes,
excellent.
Quite right. Yes,
you know?
quite right. Quite right. Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
Well,
That's my
And with
life.
that inspirational line.
it sure is. If
That's
everybody
the
is
best way to dab.
ready, we are planning on raiding Lottie again. And I think we might be about to do that right now.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rolling around
Do
at
it.
the speed
Speed
of
of
sound.
sound, got places to go, got to
Gotta
follow
follow
the
the
rainbow.
rainbow.
And stick around, gotta keep moving on.